will play the same role with metal detectors as it will throughout all law enforcement in society. It will be exactly consistent. If anyone here believes that a magnetometer or a metal detector is 100% foolproof and it's just a machine that does its job when you walk through it, you are a fool. That is not how they work. They change the levels. There are ways you can get things through. Like Keith, I go through the magnetometers at the courthouse every day, and there are a lot of deputy sheriffs there. And some days I go through with the exact same equipment, it doesn't go off. Other days it does go off. Plus, you don't just go to school naked and walk through the magnetometer. You take your bag with your books, with your school band instrument, with all these other things that are then going to be subject to search. And when we have those people that have to conduct those searches and set those machines and wand those people and frisk the people that don't make it through, they are subject to their biases, whether they be conscious or subconscious, just the same as any police interaction or any law enforcement interaction is with people. I think it will play just as big a role. I think race discrimination and bias will be just as present there as it is throughout our community, and I would assume the community will talk about it just as much.
Cameras.
Human nature, it's a funny thing. Whenever you have discretion, your bias comes into play. When you're dealing with metal detectors, you limit that discretion. Does it limit it enough to be acceptable? We're going to have to see. As metal detectors are put in, how they're being used, how much discretion these operators have, how much discretion the people who search the baggage have. The less discretion, I think it would be pretty minimal. The more discretion, you're right. It'll come into play.
Shamar.
I do think it will come into play just because it just depends on the person. It just depends on the person who, because, I mean, even though you have the metal detectors or whatever, it depends on the security guard too that you can have. People like, just because a person might look a certain way, so he might make it through the metal detector, but then he might be like, oh, I might still want to search him. He might still have something. So I think it will come into play. And certain people might feel a certain type of way just because they got to go through a metal detector.
And lastly, Cheryl.
I think metal detectors, to me, when they first said it, and what came to my mind as an African-American woman is, in the schools we already have a line in which we make the students walk. Well, that's the same line they use in the penitentiary. And for me, having metal detectors is help programming our child for the penitentiary, because you're going to have to go through metal detectors. When are we going to decide to try a different way? To make kids responsible, to help them learn how to control and correct their behavior. Because right now, I see another path to the penitentiary. By using these metal detectors, you find a gun, but you also make it a felony for these kids who get caught with that gun. So, no one is talking about that. Okay? The young man that they showed that got shot at Fern Creek, we all feel for him. It was wrong. A whole lot of kids could have got killed. No one has talked about the young man who shot him. That young man got shot 5 times, I think 2 weeks ago. I think he needed mental health counseling for a year to 2 years, probably 3 years of counseling. But he got it. And now he's been shot 5 times. So the cycle continues.
Thank you. That leads me into the next question. We were talking, Sean can play the video. Let's go back to 2014, CNN. Go ahead and play it, Sean, please. We see the students walking out in line. We've talked about that. This is after the shooting. And we get a close-up here as the camera moves in. You see the students coming out with their hands above their heads. Let me ask the panel, it's been mentioned about the atmosphere and about the kids' subjective beliefs and safety and what metal detectors will do. You can stop it, Sean. What metal detectors will do as far as the atmosphere and the perceptions of the school. That doesn't get any more penitentiary walk than it comes as far as the students walking out of a school with their hands above their heads because there's been a shooting. What about this kind of issue of the subjective beliefs of the students and the trauma of walking through metal detectors for the students? Anybody at that table want to address it?
I'm from the old school. I'm sorry. I don't care what kids think. They do as they're told. That's my position. I'm sorry. But I get the idea of turning the prison into a school into a prison and having the feelings of the students. If it was up to them, they wouldn't have homework. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, how far do we go when we ask a child who's not fully developed and doesn't have experience? That's the only thing different between adults and children, is experience. You've been on the world, you've been on the earth 16 years, I've been on the earth 42 years. That gives me a little more perspective, and then I will give homage to anyone in here older than me, because they've been here longer than I have, and have experienced more and seen more. That doesn't necessarily make you more conservative, doesn't necessarily make you more feel as if, you know, there's a scary man around every corner, but it does give you the idea of what is going on and the experience that you have. So
I gotta jump in.
if kids feel scared, if kids feel like it's a problem, yeah, well, suck it up.
I can't disagree more than any statement of what I just said. Those people look like they're 16, 17, and 18 years older. Some are driving automobiles. My daughter was 17 and a half, and she was able to vote in the primary for the President of the United States. In 6 months, she could be defending this country. And that's acceptable? Because kids don't get a vote? No, I will never accept that. Now, the only reason that's acceptable is because it's an identification process. Who's the shooter? It's an identification process. And we have to weigh that. We have to look at the situation, the need to do it versus the invasion of privacy. And if there's been a shooting, they have to do what they can to get the students out, identify them versus the shooter. That's what that's about. But when you try to tell me that a 16, 17, and 18-year-old student does not have the right to think and voice an opinion, I cannot understand that.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you, because that's the difference between adults and young adults or young children or teens, because it's kind of like we have these rules that we have to abide by, and when we have a say or feel, it's kind of like, no. You know, this is a new time, a new generation, this is a new set of people, and I feel like the old school came from an old time, and this is a new time. So it's kind of like, it's not that I wouldn't listen to you, because I know that you are here to help me, but it's also, are you going to listen to me? Because we can all learn from each other, and there's something that I know that you don't know. I mean, there's something that you don't know that I don't know. So when we don't open up those opportunities for us to speak, that's where a lot of kids don't come in and say, I disagree with that. Or they don't come to these kind of conversations and they don't say, don't put that in my school, this is my school. Right.
Let's hold that on a second. We have Dr. Razor here from JCPS. We had talked about him having an opportunity just to work kind of where they're at right now. And I'd like to give him the floor for a couple minutes. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. First, it's nice to be here tonight. Had a really long day, so I may not be as articulate as I would like to be. But first of all, I'm the person responsible ultimately with keeping 100,000 kids safe. That falls under the operations umbrella. So having said that, we always want to do whatever is reasonably possible to keep each and every kid safe. That's not just in the classroom, it's on the bus. It's the chemicals that are in the chemistry class. It's the products that we use to clean the school. There are risks and there are dangers everywhere, just like we saw this morning. Sadly, you can't prevent all of it. You just have to try to do your best. And having said that, our stance and our policy is never close your mind to anything. Just because maybe that's something you're not doing right now doesn't mean it may not be something that you're doing in the future. But having said that, one of the advantages that we have of being the largest school system in the state of Kentucky and one of the top 30, the 27th largest district in the United States, is the access that we have to experts. The access that we have to the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, the Secret Service, who work not figuratively through a manual or a video that they would send to perhaps a rural district, but actually on-site trainings and on-site interaction with those individuals as well as local law enforcement. So I say all that to say we act on the best information we have from the experts in the field. And one of the pieces of advice that they give is always be evolving. Always look at what you can do. Also, I just grew up being told never to say never. At the same time, having said that doesn't mean, you know, that we really have taken a stance right now one way or the other. And I'm not saying that to have some sort of neutral comment on it. It's more, we want to look at things with an open mind. We don't just want to have a knee-jerk reaction to, oh, heck no. As each of you pointed out, it's a very complex issue. There's a lot of complex factors that are involved. I mean, what hasn't been mentioned is, in fact, we have metal detectors in 2 of our schools right now. And that decision took a lot of thought at the time when that was done. There are issues of culture. There are issues of race. And I think we all have to embrace that. You can see that across America. If you look at statistics, it's pretty plain. But end of the day, our view is we're going to do whatever we can to keep your kid the safest we can. And I probably overuse this, and he gets tired of me saying it. But I put my son on one of our buses. I put my son in one of our schools. I send my son to our athletic events in the evening. So I'm not just some guy in a suit who can check the boxes at the end of the day and say, yeah, we did that. I mean, I'm putting my kid out there as well. So I know I've said a lot to say not much as far as committal one way or the other. Like I said, currently we have been in 2 schools where we identified that would probably be a good course of action. But we're going to continue looking at things. A lot of you have said the world's changed. Either outright said it or said it in different ways. And as Kay already said, you know, people see the world differently today than we did before too. So we can't be stuck in our ways. At the same time, we have to always thoughtfully consider every option, and in this case, every option just to keep kids safe. Thank you.
I'd like to offer the opportunity for those in the audience that want to ask any questions. One thing I do want to note, and just recognize the fact that we did invite school board members as well as school board candidates here. I believe we've got 3 of them here tonight. one of them wishes to address the question to whoever you want. If you'd identify yourself.
Sure, my name is Benjamin East, and I'm running to represent District 4 for the Jefferson County Board of Education. District 4 comes to Southwest Louisville, and Pleasure Ridge Park High School is one of them. Happy to have you here today. Thank you. I came here today because I am undecided, and in seeking the position on the board, this is a decision that, if elected, I would have to consider. And I think of it in two ways. Before even coming here, I considered those negative connotations that Kiori so eloquently pointed out, and I thank you for that as well, especially as a JCPS student. We're proud that you're with us. Being a product of Jefferson County Public Schools myself, I see that negative connotation as something that is troubling. And something that would have a negative effect on students, as pointed out by the con side. But I also stop and I consider, imagine if I am elected to the board, and imagine if I keep that idea of that negative connotation. And imagine if, God forbid, something tragic did happen, and a Columbine or Sandy Hook-esque situation unfolded in my own hometown of Louisville, Kentucky, perhaps even in my district. How would I feel? I would feel guilty, I would feel remorseful, and I would feel blindsided. But oftentimes I like to try to find a middle ground. So I wonder if there is a middle ground in which, not a metal detector, but another security solution that we could find to keep that negative connotation away from the schools, to make students feel like students. I am also a teacher. I teach 8th grade United States history. Make students feel welcome at school, like it's a fun, safe place to be, but also keep them safe in a world that is rapidly deteriorating. I heard earlier from the trip to Cincinnati that at some schools in Cincinnati, there are key cards for students, where every student must enter a key card in getting into school, which I know would not completely solve that problem. But if we look at, say, the Sandy Hook shooting, where it was a deranged person from the community that made their way into a school and committed those crimes against those families, that would certainly help cut back. I wonder if there are other more technologically advanced ways where we could keep our students safe, but also make them feel like their school is safe and remove that negative connotation. And I'll just pass it on down the line.
There's actually a whole range of things that Cincinnati does, and actually the metal detectors still require all the other things. The panic button for the faculty, hit it, and every first responder shows up in the neighborhood. Everybody has to come in through the office and they scan your driver's license, and it prints out a picture and tells them if you're on the list that you can't come in. Those kind of things. Those are all installed before the metal detectors. And actually, I mean, I'm not just, we have to have metal detectors installed, everything. I'd be fine with everything up until the metal detectors that we saw, because that also would make me feel much better, and I think the kids would be safer at that point, because that really does control who comes in and out of school. Obviously, it's not going to stop somebody who's an employee, take a machine gun and blow through the front door. Nothing's going to stop that, but it'll stop everything else, and that's sufficient for me.
Are there any other members of the audience that wish to ask any questions or comments as far as the panel? Yes, sir. One thing I want to make sure, we do have a school board member, Diane Porter, is present, and Chris Brady, who's also running as a candidate.
Yeah, I'm running for re-election.
Right. And we have 3 candidates.
I'm sorry, I wanted to answer this question.
Yes.
That was okay. I think, since there are other ways around metal detectors, I think we should try methods of building trust with the students and the teachers. I know some elementary schools and JCPS have tried meditation for students who are going through certain things, which I think is a beautiful thing, because I meditate. And I'm friends with a lot of people who go to the University of Louisville, and they asked me if I wanted to start a healing space at my school. So with the security problem, I'm not saying I don't want it, I'm just saying I don't want to rush into it so soon. I mean, look at the media, you know. I don't trust the police as of now, and I'm pretty sure majority of my friends at school and majority of people that go to my school probably do not trust the police. So I think that if we had trust techniques, and I say this all the time to anybody who goes through anything, it takes baby steps to get to what you want to achieve. When you have a goal, you have steps to get to that goal. And I think metal detectors was just something that somebody had thought of real quick because of all these guns. And I was like, we can't have all these guns, we gotta do something fast. But we can't go into the situation so fast. We have to look at ourselves and we have to say, you know, I have to be able to trust him in order for him to be on my committee to want to put something, some sort of security. You know, I'm not going to want someone who's going to disagree in my committee. You know, I'm not going to want someone who is angry. You know, we all have to be on the same page. And in this conversation, we have 3 tables of people who feel differently towards this one situation. So we all just had a goal to start, and I think that's just building trust, because some teachers I don't even trust. Some students in my school I don't trust, and I think that's unbelievable. And I think once we start that in school, it'll start to progress throughout school. That also goes with the lack of support that we have in our homes, and poverty, and etc. I am in groups at the Muhammad Ali Center, and we talked about how poverty dealt with education and how it's generational, and how much the average person makes in Kentucky. So I just think that we just need to start with the root cause, like Ms. Williams said. Where are these guns coming from? Who are these people? Who are their parents? Who do their parents know? I mean, y'all looking at us and trying to get us metal detectors, but what about our parents? So it's kind of like everything is on us right now. There's so much pressure. And for you to go ahead and try to put a metal detector in there, somebody like me, I'm just someone protesting with a poster. So I just think that we need to think about it. And we need to bring these kinds of conversations in our schools, talk to our students, you know, start getting our students out in these communities and talking, because we live in these communities in which we have disagreements and problems in, and we need to find solutions. What we have a problem is Louisville's the 4th most segregated city in the whole United States of America. We have a problem with busing, segregation in busing, segregation in schools. So of course there's going to be a discrimination, there's going to be a conversation of race once you put those metal detectors in. So have you thought about that? We don't want any controversy, do we? No, we want to be the pretty Kentucky that we've always been when it comes to certain events, when we decorate downtown and when we build a $1 million hotel. But there's all sorts of things that are happening that may cause that person to bring a gun to school, to want to hurt somebody. Maybe I'm going through something that makes me want to hurt you, but you may not have done anything to me. So why aren't you talking to me? Like she said about the young man that had shot the boy in Fern Creek. We didn't think to talk to him. We just, oh, he's a murderer. He's a murderer. And then we have all these comments of hate on social media, and it's like, when are we going to help him? When are we going to help his parents cope with his parents to help him? Because some parents aren't even ready to have kids. Some parents weren't. So how are we going to help these parents? You know, I'm not against public safety, but I'm against rushing into something we haven't even thought about. That's what we go to school for. That's what JCPS teaches us. Let that be as it is.
Thank you. We have a question from an audience member. If you'd identify yourself, please, sir.
Fritz Hollenbeck, a candidate for District 7. Mine's more of a comment and a follow-up to Dr. Razor. So we have a problem, obviously. And up here it says in JCPS middle and high schools. I think if my memory serves me correctly, there are 23 middle schools and 24 high schools. We're not talking about the special schools. So we're talking about roughly 50 schools. So one of the things that I think Dr. Razor's done a good job, and the school board has done a good job, is the database, be data-driven. So one of the first steps of any problem is to gather the facts. The facts say, let's talk about what would be required if we took this path. Gather the facts, present them in a forum, board meeting, etc., and let there be more dialogue. This is a great first step, and I commend the people who put this on. That way, it would build a consensus, or it would bring up some other issues.
Scott, can I chip in one? Hold on. Anybody else? Yeah, I want to get the audience, make sure they have an opportunity.
Thank you. My name is Gay Adelman. My son just graduated from the Academy in Shawnee last year, so I'm a past parent of a Shawnee student. And I'm also one of the co-founders of an organization called Dear JCPS, and we are an advocacy group, a stakeholder advocacy group that addresses issues that we see going on in the district and presents present them to our school board members so that they can make a more informed, more balanced decision, because a lot of times the community's not paying attention to issues like this, and then it comes up for a vote, and it's not until it's been voted on that the community becomes aware. So we try to get in front of that and gather feedback and present it to our board members and present the other side, if you will. One of the things that I wanted to talk to you guys about tonight is some of the reasons why kids bring guns to school. I don't pretend to know what those reasons are, but I know that the world has changed, and behavior and discipline and student safety is a concern for a lot of our students. And sometimes they're just bringing guns because they don't feel safe. And they don't come to school with the intent to hurt anyone. Maybe they felt unsafe on the way to school or on the way home because of the bus ride that they're going to be on or the truck bus they're going to have to take. And they have that gun with them for something beyond their time in school. And again, that goes to backing up to asking what is causing this. And if it is behavior and safety concerns, one of the things our group has been advocating for the last year and a half are certain things that Kiori was talking about that build that relationship, build that trust, smaller class sizes, more interventions and supports, less emphasis on high stakes test scores, less disparate treatment between schools and students. If you can get certain things like that in place, then you reduce the teacher turnover, you build the relationships, you get engaged kids who love learning, and the behavior gets under control. We have a teacher shortage in our district. If we can get all these other things addressed, we can get the teacher shortage back under control. We can get the bus driver situation back under control. But we don't have the money. It comes down to money. And if we can find money for anything, which is great to hear you say, let's back it up a little bit and find the money for these things that have let us get to this point where we are now. I have a theory or a philosophy that says if you don't make a decision, one's going to get made for you. And I feel like we're finally getting community awareness of some of these problems, but they're not new problems. They're just escalated to the point now that the community cares. Let's find a way to get the money, but get the money that provides all these initial front-end supports instead of the metal detectors, which is going to be a back-end support. That's after everything's already out of control. Let's get things under control on the front end. And even if you get metal detectors, if you haven't addressed all these other things, it's not going to work. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, each table, I'm going to give you 2 minutes. However you divvy that up. One person, divide up, 2 minutes. And I'm saying that because we got lawyers, and we got a future lawyer probably here. Yeah. Certainly our school board members, and we thank them for attending, as well as our candidates. We can be quite proud of these students here tonight. 1 minute apiece, but we know it's lawyers, so it's lawyer time. Let's go with the con table first.
Let me throw in my 10 seconds. Maybe it's Kaori, maybe it's Mr. Razor, maybe it's all the folks at JCPS, but our schools are pretty safe, and I think it's important for us to keep that in context. According to the Department of Bureau of Justice and Statistics, only 1% of all homicides of school-age youth occur on school property on the way to school or at school-related events. 42% occur at home. 23% occur on public transportation. You want to put the magnetometer someplace, put them on the TARP buses or in your own home, not in the schools. That would be a better way to spend your money. The risk of being involved in a school-associated shooting is 1 in 2.5 million, and that since 1990s, school-associated homicides have declined throughout the United States. Certainly there's a lot of media attention, certainly there are some horrific events, but we need to keep all that in context and realize that our schools are safe.
Kiori, 1 minute.
Okay, statistics are good for backing up evidence. Thank you, lawyers. But if we don't, to be a better school system, let's not create statistics. Let's stay with the education. Let's raise the statistics for education, meaning test scores. JCPS has low test scores. Let's talk about the resources. Let's talk about the curriculum. Let's talk about ways to help the students learn the curriculum and also trust each other, because we are the future, and we are the future now, because tomorrow is a new day. So, yeah.
Mr. Murphy?
What Gay said.
Let's hear the neutral table. Pass it on down.
First, and then we get them pro last.
Okay, so
You three guys, first key.
Doctor, thank you for coming out. I like the way your mind works, and I think you're a blessing to the community. What I tell other politicians is this: before you take action, look at the need for the action. Do your homework, find out what the facts are, and then you got to balance it against its consequences, good and bad. And then you make your decision. Then you have to test it, maybe only 2 schools, to see if the need really existed and whether or not this is the best alternative. And if you decide to keep doing it, then review it every 5 or 6 years to see if times have changed. And maybe one day we won't need it. But I think the inquiry, the question, the analysis is excellent, and I thank you.
I just want to say that I agree with what this woman said. Fines are definitely a problem. I don't think we should act like they're not a problem. And I think that there's more ways. We could put the money where it could be more beneficial than spending it on middle detectors.
Another student that we can be very proud of. Thank you.
I like to say, I understand why those who want metal detectors, but I look at Louisville, and the reason why they probably want it is because we are having a health crisis with guns right now. We're about to hit 100 homicides in this city. So it is spilling over into our schools, but I still want to say, we have to take some time, go to the root of the problem, solve some of these problems. Like Shamari here told me on the way here that she goes to PRP, but her track team doesn't have track suits. Why aren't we spending money on that? And then I think it's Title I, where the female team has to match what the male team is, the male team. Title IX. Well, the male team is getting track uniforms, but the females are not. So we have a lot of issues in this school system besides guns. And if we all come together and solve some of those issues, and if we would put art and music back in the schools, you would have happier kids.
History.
Thank you.
And history.
Here's the thing, no one likes to be here right now having this discussion. It doesn't make me happy to look at this young lady and tell her, I think you should have to walk through a metal detector every single day when you go to school. That's not a happy thing to say. But the reality is it's at our doorstep. Juvenile violence in this community with guns is just an issue right in front of us. And we can accept conditions as the way they are, or we can do something about it. Now, it's not something any of us are happy to be having this discussion, though. And it's not the end-all, be-all, but it is an objective solution. To say every school gets this, everyone does this. It's an objective solution to a problem. It's not the only solution, and it's not the end-all, be-all solution, though. I agree there needs to be, as this young lady said, an involvement with parents, an involvement with students, an involvement with teachers. Just throwing a metal detector in every single school is not going to solve the issue. That's not what, I don't think anyone over here is saying that. But it is a proactive approach to try to do something about it. And the good thing is it's having us discussions like this. It's getting people involved. It's getting people talking about, hey, maybe we do have a problem with guns in our community. Maybe we do have a problem with juveniles shooting one another in our community. Hey, maybe we do have a problem that hope that Fern Creek High School 2014 does not repeat itself again. So, this isn't a situation to where it's going to just rubber stamp it and it's going to go away, but it's a proactive approach to pull in teachers and other students and other parents to get involved and say, hey, what can we do to solve this issue? And it's just one aspect of a more comprehensive plan to keep our students safe, to keep our teachers safe, to keep the staffs at these buildings safe, and for all of us who are parents to send our children to school and know that the school board and the superintendent and everyone involved is doing the best they can to keep our children safe.
so here's what we would like for all of you all to leave with tonight. You all's time was not wasted. Two different groups, I'm not going to name them right now because we're trying to coordinate this. One in South Louisville, one in East Louisville. Would love for all of you all to bring this conversation into their community, which is absolutely great. The third leg of this, and lastly, is going to be an all-student conversation on this. So we want to keep driving this conversation. And we believe at the end of the day, people will have at least a little bit more information that they didn't have. And we believe by driving the conversation, and I'll end on this note, everybody can grow from this conversation to hopefully understand the whole idea and the importance of what safety is about, especially for kids, Dr. Grace. So if you all would be willing to get these two invites, especially everybody on this panel, for a South End conversation and an East Louisville conversation, we would really appreciate it, and then we'll let everybody know about the all-student conversation coming out of this. Thanks a lot, really appreciate you all.